We're here with Mirabai Bush, co-founder of the Center for Contemplative Mind and Society, instrumental in the founding of Google's Silly program. She teaches contemplative practices and puts together programs for organizations and much, much more. Mirabai, tell our audience what you're up to nowadays.
Well, so many things, because as we all know, this interest in mindfulness is just every time I think I won't be surprised by it, I am. So I've just very recently I've been worked with an orientation for Amherst College freshmen, in which out of 400 entering freshmen, 70 chose mindfulness and yoga for their 3-day intensive. That was great, and I did it with George Mumford, who's on the cover of Mindfulness Month, and I loved doing that. I mean, not long before that, I had gone to Kyoto to speak to a group of holistic educators about the role of mindfulness in education, both K through 12 and higher ed. So interesting. Then coming up, I'm going to do a workshop for a retreat for the Environmental Defense Fund for their group that works with businesses and trying to get them to really go green, not fake everything. So it's just everywhere in higher education, at the center of the Association for Contemplative Mind and Higher Education, through which people integrate mindfulness and other practices into their teaching, is just growing and growing every year. What I've noticed a lot is that people seem more and more responsive to relational practices, to the way in which mindfulness encourages compassion, loving kindness, awareness of others, as well as awareness of self. And that I've been teaching more compassion practices, one called Just Like Me. I've been teaching more loving kindness and working partners yoga, listening practices. All these practices have mindfulness as a core component, and people seem to be more and more interested in moving from cultivating awareness of themselves to finding ways in which these practices can give them a better ability to relate to people they know and people they don't know.
Well, that's a very interesting array. You've always been involved in so many different things, and often right at the beginning. Can you give us an idea of how some of those trends you're seeing will lead to emerging work for you or in the field altogether in 2016? What do you see on the horizon for the coming year?
Something that's been emerging very strongly, but to complement to those relational practices I was talking about, is the way in which mindfulness can help us create a more inclusive, just, diverse society. In higher education, in particular, I mean, as we know, there's a lot going on around all of these issues in this country this year. And in higher education, there's a lot happening. And this year, the center had our conference at Howard University with a particular emphasis on looking at ways in which mindfulness practices and the related practices can serve students from diverse backgrounds, students of color, or urban students, and that all of that is related to the work that's emerging in social justice organizations as well, using these practices to help help people work together with less destructive emotion, help people see more clearly what possible pathways there are out of some of the situations we find ourselves in, helping people recognize the interconnection of all of us and the ways in which we are similar as well as appreciating the ways in which we are diverse. Um, I spoke in Charleston and in Baltimore this year for different organizations, and in both cases, young leaders from Black Lives Matter came up after the talk and said, are there ways in which these practices can help us in our organizing? There's an opening now into the world, um, we hope, so that more voices can be heard. But we need help in strategy sessions. We need help in calming and clarifying the anger that's come out of a lot of unjust situations and transforming that into energy that we can use. So somehow this year I wasn't trying to make any of these things happen, but it seemed like everything I've been working on pretty much that these issues are emerging in me and the potential of these practices to help us, as I say, create a more just, diverse, inclusive, compassionate society.
Mirabai, how would you hope that Mindful can help support this very important work in the coming year? What would you like to see us do to help support that work?
Um, well, first of all, I want to say that Mindful is already helping tremendously in that it has really been a major, it's had a major effect in mainstream people recognizing that these practices um, are human practices and helpful to all of us. So it's really been great. I think I would really like to see uh, an expansion of, I'd like to see more focus on the potential of mindfulness to for full awakening, to go beyond the um, immediate benefits of calm, uh, calmness, clarity, focus, attention, and so on, to helping people to insight and where we say wisdom, so that people know better what it is they're doing and why they're doing it. Opening, showing its relationships to other practices like the compassion, love, and kindness practices, and also practices that really look fully at what is happening in a whole environment, seeing, helping people see their see the nature of their thoughts and emotions as they arise, and help people not get so lost in desires, so that we can get past the negative aspects of living in a consumer society. Um, so, yeah, I guess I'm saying I'd like us to go deeper and broader and recognize the ways in which um, focused awareness of mindfulness can help us actually understand things better and see um, more possibilities for moving forward.
Mirabai, thank you so much.